Hi, ArcfieldWeather.com meteorologist Paul Dorian here on Friday morning, January the 17th. A lot to talk about this morning, but this next week or so will be quite dramatic across much of the nation. It looks like we'll have an Arctic invasion that will really envelop much of the nation by the time we get to the early part of next week. Inauguration Day on Monday will be frigid indeed in the Washington, D.C. area. Very well could be preceded by a snowstorm. It looks like there'll be a low pressure area that forms along the incoming Arctic frontal boundary zone on Sunday, very likely to produce accumulating snow throughout much of the mid-Atlantic and northeast U.S., and that includes the I-95 corridor region from D.C. to Philadelphia to New York City and all the way up to Boston as well. And we'll kind of focus in on that Sunday threat, but we'll certainly touch upon another threat by the middle of the week, and that is the one that could produce snow and ice way down into the southern part of the nation. A little bit too early to say if it comes all the way up the eastern seaboard. That is a possibility, in which case it would produce additional snow for places like the mid-Atlantic region. And there's even yet another possible storm at the end of the week or into the following weekend here. So a very, very active and brutally cold stretch here coming up for much of the nation. Let's start off here by looking at a map we don't often show here. This is from the ensemble run of the European model, and basically it's showing the probability of the surface temperature reaching zero or below by the time we get to the middle of the week. So all of these areas in red are actually 90 to 100% chance of reaching zero or below, so that by the middle of the week. And this is just impressive indeed. You don't often see this kind of a map for the mid-Atlantic region, the northeast U.S. I do believe D.C., Philadelphia, New York City will easily drop into single digits, and in many places within a couple of degrees of zero. And we're talking about Tuesday morning and Wednesday morning, and I'll tell you what, Monday morning won't be a piece of cake either, because it'll be probably single digits as well. So just a brutal cold air mass moving into the mid-Atlantic northeast U.S., and that will follow a snowstorm on Sunday. I would classify it as a moderate snowstorm, maybe a little bit more than just moderate, but we'll talk about the accumulation estimates over the next few minutes here. Well, just kind of a quick look ahead to that midweek storm threat. This particular map, again, you don't see this too often. Probability of more than an inch of snow by the middle of the week. And just the fact that we're getting non-zero values here along the deep south really is quite interesting indeed. All the way from Texas across Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, into the Carolinas, there's a decent chance of snow and ice by the midweek system. Again, this front system here on the front end of the Arctic blast into the eastern states, that'll be up farther to the north and east, impacting places like the mid-Atlantic region and northeast U.S. But that midweek system, Wednesday time frame, could very well produce snow and ice all the way down into the deep south. We've talked about how penetrated this cold air mass will become all the way down to the Gulf Coast region. By the time any system comes out on Wednesday, there will be very, very cold air well entrenched all the way down to the Gulf Coast. Now, these next couple of maps actually come from the European model, the artificial intelligence European model forecast. And what we're looking at here is something I closely look at during storm events, either in the Mid-Atlantic region or wherever. The 850 millibar temperature. These are the temperatures in the atmosphere a few thousand feet off the surface, and they largely dictate whether or not snow falls. First of all, you want to be below freezing at the 850 millibar level, and if it gets really cold, then that snow becomes more of the lighter, fluffier variety, a drier kind of a snow, and the what we call the snow to rain ratio. Typically, the estimate is for each inch of rain, it's equivalent to producing 10 inches of snow. But if you can get it colder and colder in the upper part of the atmosphere, that snow to rain ratio could actually climb, instead of 10 to 1, it may become 15 to 1 or even 20 to 1 in some cases. So a smaller amount of liquid equivalent precipitation can produce a higher amount of snow. Well, here's a forecast map, again from a European model run for the middle of the day on Sunday. And what's interesting here is kind of take note of these 850 millibar temperatures, around 5 degrees below zero in the DC metro region, also in Philadelphia and New York City. Then we go to the next forecast map here at 7 p.m. So the initial one was 1 p.m. early afternoon on Sunday, and then we go 6 hours later, and you can see these temperatures dropping. They're basically crashing here at the 850 millibar level when that Arctic air becomes more and more firmly entrenched into the mid-Atlantic region. So what this tells me, again, we'll back up again to the prior one. At the middle of the day, there can be rain along coastal sections at the onset of this system on Monday. Probably all snow in the big cities. If it starts as rain, it would just be for a brief time, but with 850 millibar temperatures this low already by the early part of the afternoon, I think the bulk of this should turn out to be in the form of snow, places like DC, Philadelphia, New York City, and again, it will become increasingly colder during the day, so more and more of a drier type of snow, which could end up producing even higher and higher snowfall amounts relative to that 10 to 1 ratio that is normal for snow to rain. Well, let's jump to the GFS model here, and we've talked about in the last few days that I kind of avoided the GFS model because it did not capture what I thought would be a pretty decent storm along this incoming Arctic front. Well, it has finally caught up, and it does feature the storm system on Sunday going into Sunday night for the Mid-Atlantic Northeast U.S., and I think it's doing a fairly reasonable job right now. So we'll focus in on the 2-meter temperature anomaly forecast maps here. Beginning the day on Friday, we have some above normal conditions across the middle of the nation, still colder than normal in the east. We had a little bit of snowfall last night, places like Philadelphia, DC, anywhere from a coating to a couple of inches, and slick roads because the roadways were indeed very, very cold going into that light snow event. All it takes is a very cold roadway, and all you need is a little bit of light snow to cause some slick conditions. Well, let's move forward here. Just want to kind of point out, reiterate what we've been talking about. This Arctic invasion really gets underway early this weekend on Saturday morning when Arctic air floods the northern plains and the interior Pacific Northwest, and it kind of takes a dive all the way down to Texas pretty quickly by later in the day on Saturday. Some of these temperatures are as much as 20-25 degrees below normal, and of course this is one of the coldest times of the year, so those normal temperatures are very low to begin with. So this is impressive cold, dangerous cold headed across much of the nation. Here we go into the day on Sunday. That Arctic air is starting to filter into the Mid-Atlantic region. Again, we just had a look at the 850 millibar temperatures, and it will become an increasingly colder day. So any rain is likely to change pretty quickly to snow, and that will be accumulating snow throughout the Mid-Atlantic region and the Northeast U.S. Then we go all the way into Monday morning, and here we go, Inauguration Day, frigid. I expect highs, noontime temperatures, let's say in the DC area on Monday around 20 degrees, and there will be a biting wind, so much lower wind chill values. And then again, after that, single-digit low temperatures, even in the big cities. Monday night, Tuesday night, Wednesday night, and some areas can certainly get down to near 0 degrees in that immediate I-95 corridor region, and areas to the north and west almost assuredly will get down to 0 or below. We'll go out a little bit farther in time, and here we go all the way into Tuesday morning, and a wide part of the nation well below normal. And again, I mentioned this in a prior video, I think Monday and Tuesday could end up being some of the coldest days you ever see across the nation. If you take the average temperature across the nation, I think Monday and Tuesday could really be the coldest we've seen in a long, long time. Well, let's now take a look at the 500 millibar height anomaly forecast maps. This is from the 0Z run of the GFS, And we'll move into, well, let's back up here. I wanted to start this with the current day here. This is now on Friday. This is today. We're starting off with a little bit of a ridge out over the Midwest, and yet it's still rather cold hanging on across the eastern part of the nation. But here comes some energy in the upper part of the atmosphere dropping to the south and east, and this becomes a large scale upper level trough, a deep upper level trough right here by the time we get to Sunday morning, January 19th. This is extending, maybe centered over the Hudson Bay region of Canada, but has an extension all the way down to the Gulf states, the south central part of the U.S. And it is at this time that that Arctic front tends to get stall out right here in the southeastern states, and that will allow for the formation of low pressure right along that frontal boundary zone. That frontal boundary zone is an area of a tight temperature gradient where it gets much colder just to the north and west and warmer to the south and east, and that typically leads to convergence at the surface, which in turn can lead to surface low formation. Indeed, we will have an Arctic wave of low pressure forming right about in this area during the first half of Sunday, and it moves up to the north and east and produces accumulating snow throughout much of the Mid-Atlantic, northeast U.S., including that I-95 corridor region. And then we'll just kind of quickly go towards the middle of the week, and you see kind of a dumbbelling effect where things kind of rotate around, and we have certainly an extension of that upper level trough going all the way back into New Mexico by the time we get to the middle of the week. This is Tuesday, and this can set off the formation of another low pressure area down across the Gulf of Mexico, and that is the system, a Tuesday, Wednesday time frame that could produce some snow and ice all the way across the southern states, Texas to Georgia, maybe even northern part of Florida. And here we go into the day on Wednesday right here. That slides to the east, and then we go quickly towards the end of next week, and there's another area of energy sliding across the middle of the nation. Indeed, that will produce a third threat, perhaps at the end of next week, or perhaps the subsequent weekend here. So we got potentially 3 different systems to deal with over the next 7, 8, 9 days or so, with a tremendous amount of cold air around. Well, let's wrap up with the surface forecast maps from last night's 0Z run of the conventional GFS. Relatively quiet as we begin the day here on Friday. That light snow event from last night is off to the east now, and pretty much dry throughout the Mid-Atlantic, northeast U.S., but very cold. And here we go with that incoming Arctic invasion by the time we get to early Saturday morning. There will be a little bit of rain, sleet, snow moving into the eastern states on Saturday, maybe even some freezing rain, maybe cold enough for some rain to freeze on some surfaces. Does not look like a heavy rain event. It's kind of a preceding event to the main action, which comes on Sunday. And here we go into Sunday morning. It is at this time that the frontal system tends to stall out right in this area right here for a while. Low pressure forms right along that Arctic frontal boundary zone, and now the GFS really believes in this system here, and it tends to explode in its area of precipitation by the time we get to the middle of the day on Sunday. And remember, we took a look at that 850 millibar temperature pattern well below zero at this time across DC, Philadelphia, and New York City. So I do believe this will be snow, or if it starts as rain, it will be a quick changeover to snow. Now, coastal sections, Delmarva, maybe southern New Jersey, they may start off either rain or some ice, but they too will end up changing over to accumulating snow. And here we go by the time we get to Sunday evening, 999 low off the Mid-Atlantic coastline, snow, DC, Philadelphia, New York City, heading into Boston as well, and that continues to move to the north and east, produces a good snowfall for eastern New England as well. Right now, my preliminary snowfall estimates for DC, I'm thinking in the 3 to 6 inch range. For Philadelphia and New York City, 4 to 8 inches. in all three places, isolated higher amounts. These are still 48 hours away, but it's certainly a moderate snowstorm, and that snowstorm on Sunday night into the northeast U.S. will be followed by brutally cold conditions. This is midday on Monday, Inauguration Day, January 20th. Again, noontime temperatures probably around 20 in the D.C. metro area, and look at the pressure grading here. Strong northwest wind will make it feel much colder than that. We'll go out a little farther in time now. We'll start to see this storm system, and again, it can produce snow and ice all the way down into the deep south, let's say on Tuesday into Wednesday time frame. Now this particular run of the GFS kind of keeps it suppressed off to the south and east of the Mid-Atlantic region. That can certainly change. There are reasons to believe that this will end up farther to the north and west and could impact, let's say, the Mid-Atlantic region by the middle of the week, and certainly the southern U.S. Can be impacted by that midweek system. And then quickly to the end of the week, yet another system looks like it'll form way down in the southern states, and there'll be plenty of cold air left. So we have as many as 3 low pressure areas to deal with over the next 7, 8, 9 days or so. And the first one on Sunday looks like it'll produce a decent snowstorm, a decent snowfall for places like D.C., Philadelphia, New York City, on the order of several inches on the table. And that threat extends all the way up to Boston and interior sections of the Mid-Atlantic and Northeast U.S. as well. And again, all the way down to the coast, that'll change over to accumulating snow as well in the Mid-Atlantic and Northeast U.S. And then we'll have to watch for that next system on Wednesday and perhaps another one Friday, Saturday time frame at the end of next week. And the brutal cold starts to invade the U.S. early Saturday, and by the time we get to Monday and Tuesday, much of the nation will be in a deep freeze. That's it for now. For ArcfieldWeather.com, this has been meteorologist Paul Dorian.